There comes a moment in life when the weight of someone else's control no longer defines your worth. You realize that the endless manipulation, the subtle gaslighting, the relentless testing of your patience, none of it has power over the person who knows their own value. When a narcissist senses that you are untouchable, that your boundaries are non-negotiable, and that your life thrives independently of their approval, something shifts in the room. Fear rises in them, not the kind that weakens you, but the kind that acknowledges your strength. And with that fear comes a deep, instantaneous respect, a recognition they never earned but can no longer deny. You are no longer playing by their rules. You are no longer shrinking to fit into the confines of their ego. You are rising fully, unapologetically, and in that rise, they confront the truth of your unbreakable presence. The more you stand firm, the more their illusions crumble, and the more they respect the clarity and courage that radiates from someone who refuses to be diminished. This is the power of unwavering self-respect, and the fear it inspires is the proof of your freedom. There is a profound moment in life when the balance of power quietly begins to shift. It is not loud or dramatic at first. It happens in the small, unspoken choices you make every day. The confidence you carry in your voice, the steadiness in your gaze, the refusal to bend to manipulation, all of these signal a shift never anticipated. For a narcissist, control is their oxygen, and when it begins to slip, panic quietly takes root. They are accustomed to bending reality, rewriting your actions, and extracting compliance without question. But when you start to move with certainty, when you refuse to justify, explain, or negotiate your worth, the dynamic changes completely. Their carefully constructed sense of dominance falters because confidence is not something that can be bargained with or undermined. As you strengthen your sense of self, each step you take radiates a subtle but undeniable message: you are unshakable. They notice it in your tone, in the way your eyes hold theirs without wavering, in the calm clarity of your decisions. It is not aggression that frightens them, nor is it anger. It is the quiet assertion of your own value, the knowledge that you do not need their approval to exist fully. When you begin to operate from this place, they experience something unfamiliar, uncomfortable, and terrifying: vulnerability. They see their influence shrinking, their words losing their power, and for the first time, they are confronted with the reality that they are not in control. This shift does not happen overnight, nor does it require confrontation. It grows quietly through consistent self-respect, through repeated actions that reinforce your boundaries, through the deliberate refusal to participate in their games. Each time you honor your truth instead of yielding to fear or manipulation, the balance tilts further. What they once dismissed or undermined becomes impossible to ignore. Your presence alone, calm yet unwavering, becomes a mirror reflecting their limitations back to them. They may try to provoke, intimidate, or belittle, but the foundation of your confidence absorbs these attempts like water against stone. The most remarkable aspect of this shift is that it is rooted in your own power, not in their weakness. You do not need to confront, argue, or expose them to achieve it. The moment you step fully into yourself, their control dissolves silently, replaced by a mixture of fear and respect they cannot conceal. They are confronted with the truth that you are no longer a participant in their narrative, and that realization can feel like a nightmare to someone who thrives on dominance. Meanwhile, you continue to move forward, grounded, steady, and unafraid, embodying a strength that cannot be negotiated away. A presence that commands recognition without a single word, a confidence that transforms the power dynamic entirely. Boundaries are the quiet, invisible lines that define who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. They are not punishments or ultimatums. They are declarations of self-respect, declarations that your worth is not subject to debate or manipulation. In the presence of a narcissist, these boundaries take on an extraordinary power. They are the markers that communicate, without words, that you are fully aware of your value and unwilling to compromise it. When they encounter someone who enforces boundaries consistently and calmly, it creates an unfamiliar tension, fear, and admiration coexisting in a space that they cannot control. Fear arises because boundaries disrupt the illusion of influence. Narcissists rely on blurred lines and ambiguity to extract compliance, to bend others to their will. When they confront someone who refuses to negotiate on the terms of their dignity, the predictability that once comforted them vanishes. Every attempt to manipulate or intimidate is met with a steady presence that does not yield. That fear is not rooted in anger or aggression, but in the recognition that control has been stripped from their grasp. The uncertainty, the impossibility of bending you to their desires creates a silent panic they cannot articulate. At the same time, admiration emerges often reluctantly because boundaries require courage, clarity, and consistency. To witness someone honor their own worth so completely, to see them navigate interactions with calm certainty, can evoke a deep respect, even in those who would never admit it. It is the rare combination of strength and grace, the kind of presence that commands recognition without needing to demand it. Your refusal to shrink, to excuse, or to compromise becomes a lesson in power they cannot replicate, a demonstration that true authority comes from self-mastery rather than domination. Implementing boundaries is not about confrontation, it is about alignment with your own principles. It begins with awareness, knowing what is acceptable, what undermines your well-being, and where your limits lie. Each time you uphold these limits, you reinforce a standard that cannot be dismissed or ignored. Over time, this consistency reshapes the dynamic entirely. The narcissist no longer sees a pliable target. They see someone unshakable, a presence that cannot be undermined. Your boundaries, steady and unwavering, become a force that transforms fear into respect, creating a balance that both protects you and signals the depth of your strength. The coexistence of fear and admiration is not accidental. It is a natural consequence of self-respect expressed without aggression. When you move through life anchored in your principles, when your limits are known and enforced with quiet confidence, the reactions of others, especially those who thrive on control, reveal the power you have cultivated. It is a reminder that authority is earned through presence, that influence grows from integrity, and that fear can exist side by side with admiration when it is rooted in unwavering self-possession. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you can ever wield, especially when dealing with someone who thrives on control. It is not emptiness or avoidance. It is presence without permission for manipulation, a refusal to engage in their attempts to dictate your emotions or reactions. The moment you embrace silence, you create a space where their expectations can no longer land. They are accustomed to constant feedback, to arguments that bend toward their will, to reactions that validate their sense of power. When you stop feeding that cycle, the shift is immediate and unmistakable. In your silence, they encounter something unfamiliar and deeply unsettling: autonomy. Your calm refusal to respond on their terms disrupts the rhythm they depend on. They realize that you are no longer available as a source of validation or submission. Every attempt to provoke, guilt, or intimidate is met with stillness, a refusal to participate in their games. That stillness communicates far more than words ever could. It says that you are whole without their approval, that your emotions are yours to manage, and that their attempts to dominate your inner world are irrelevant. In that moment, control slips through their fingers like sand, and they confront a truth they cannot manipulate away. Silence does not come from fear or avoidance. It comes from clarity and courage. It is the deliberate choice to protect your peace, to conserve your energy, and to honor your own sense of self. When you remain composed and unreactive, you model a kind of strength that is impossible to ignore. They watch, often with disbelief, as the usual levers they pull have no effect. Their confusion grows, and with it, a quiet respect begins to emerge alongside the fear that you are untouchable. They experience the power of someone who no longer participates in the dance of manipulation, someone who has reclaimed their own rhythm and refuses to step out of it for anyone else. This dynamic reveals a profound truth. Control is always an illusion when it depends on the consent of another. By choosing silence, you demonstrate that true authority comes not from domination but from self-possession. Your refusal to be baited, your calm and consistent boundary setting, and your ability to remain centered in the face of provocation create an undeniable force. The narcissist senses it immediately. They are confronted with a presence that cannot be rewritten, a person whose inner life is inaccessible and therefore unconquerable. Over time, silence becomes not only a shield, but a declaration. It is a demonstration of power, a signal that your autonomy is non-negotiable, and a lesson that their influence has limits they cannot overcome. When they finally recognize that they cannot control you, fear rises naturally, tinged with respect, and you stand fully in the clarity of your freedom, grounded, steady, and unshakable, embodying a strength that speaks louder than any argument, louder than any attempt at manipulation, louder than any words they could ever usurous. Unshakable is not a sudden moment of triumph. It is the accumulation of countless choices to honor your own truth, to refuse compromise that diminishes your value, and to step fully into your life with unwavering presence. It is the awareness that your freedom is born not from their permission, but from your own courage. The fear they feel is a natural reflection of the power you have claimed, a mirror of the authority that exists in someone who refuses to be controlled. When you rise in this way, their unease becomes a testament to your strength, a signal that you are no longer bound by the limitations they tried to impose. Every step you take in clarity, every boundary you enforce, and every decision made from integrity reinforces a structure of self-possession that cannot be dismantled. The narcissist has relied on chaos, on uncertainty, and on the manipulation of emotions to maintain dominance. When they encounter someone who moves with certainty and purpose, their fear grows because the rules they depended on no longer apply. They cannot bend, break, or intimidate someone who operates from an internal compass that is steady and unwavering. Your rise is not reactive, it is proactive, rooted in self-awareness and the knowledge that no external force can dictate your worth. Freedom emerges as you embody this unshakable presence. It is the liberation that comes from refusing to participate in their games, from choosing integrity over appeasement, and from recognizing that their discomfort is a reflection of your authenticity. The fear they feel is not something you create through aggression or confrontation. It is a natural byproduct of your self-respect, a recognite ion of the boundaries they cannot cross and the influence they cannot reclaim. Each moment of clarity, each act of self-alignment transforms the energy of their fear into a visible marker of your autonomy. The process of rising unshakable requires patience, resilience, and consistent self-reflection. It is cultivated through repetition, choosing calm over reaction, choosing presence over performance, and choosing freedom over fear. The more grounded you become in your own truth, the more their attempts to unsettle you dissolve. You begin to inhabit a space where their power diminishes in proportion to your clarity. They sense it instinctively, often with a mixture of dread and admiration, and that recognition confirms the transformative energy of your presence. In this space, fear and freedom coexist in a remarkable interplay. Their fear validates the strength you embody, and your freedom amplifies the reality that control has shifted irrevocably. Rising unshakable is the ultimate demonstration that power belongs not to those who demand it, but to those who live it quietly and consistently. It is a testament to resilience, to integrity, and to the unwavering commitment to oneself. in claiming your life fully, in walking with confidence and clarity, the energy of their fear becomes a reflection of the unbreakable foundation you have built, a force that illuminates the boundless freedom that comes when someone refuses to be diminished, refuses to be controlled, and rises fully into their own light. The journey to rising unshakable is not about defeating them or proving anything to anyone else. It is about claiming the life that was always yours, the freedom that comes from knowing your value and living it fully. Every step you take in clarity, every boundary you honor, every moment you refuse to shrink, compounds into a presence that cannot be ignored. Their fear is a reflection of your strength. Their respect a silent acknowledgement of the courage you embody. You no longer need to explain, justify, or fight for recognition. Your actions, your calm, your unwavering commitment to yourself speak louder than any argument, louder than any manipulation, louder than any attempt to control. In choosing yourself, you demonstrate the power of autonomy, the authority of integrity, and the freedom that comes when someone refuses to be diminished. This is the ultimate victory, not over them, but over the parts of yourself that doubted, were or compromised. Rising unshakable transforms fear into freedom, intimidation into respect, and challenge into a mirror reflecting your unbreakable presence. From this place, you move through life fully alive, fully empowered, and fully free, a force that no one can contain.